mainly. One is the stock prediction project that I'm picking up from the summer. The stupidest thing you can use AI for, but I need to do it, so I don't have to do it manually. And I'm going to do that. But the second thing is basically my girlfriend has an audit of her daycare business.
Daycare business, yeah.
And it's really an extensive audit, so they have to answer a shitload of questions. And every question has please describe and give your documented procedures for X, Y, and Z. And everyone is freaking out because it's so much work to do so. But I'm going to help with that. So it's going to be half of my time during the Christmas holidays to work on the audit. And the second half is going to be for my own personal enjoyment, the AI project. And I'm going to use so much of AI power to do the best.
You're gonna maximize for your own pleasure to use AI.
Well, not for my pleasure, but partly, yes. At least it will be a bit more fun to work with it when you can use ChatGPT or more Google Bard, I think, than ChatGPT to make the best effing ever audits they have seen. Every process so well documented, so well written, they never ever seen such well.
But what are you planning? I mean, this is going to be. I know you're a Bard fan, right? But do you think it's going to be Bard and ChatGPT mainly, or are you going to use some other tools?
No, but they are the top one that you have access to in Sweden, at least, unless you use some VPN stuff. But so probably Bard, but I will try ChatGPT as well. But ChatGPT to me has been failing quite a lot recently. And it's going out trying to download stuff on the internet, and then it's trying to do the code interpreter, analyzing stuff, and then it fails, and it takes a long time.
But you like that, right? That Bard is better. You like that.
I do like that. I like to support the underdog.
The underdog.
Google is the underdog.
I like when Google is the underdog.
Yeah. So that's going to be one fun thing.
But you make me feel very lazy because you're still going to do some sort of proper value adding stuff. I just want to ski and snowboard. Yeah,
you're going down to Austria, right?
We're driving down. That's the big thing. Right. Yeah, so we are spending some time in the snow. So we're going to be at home over the Christmas, and then driving to my mom and dad's on the west coast in Sweden, and then from there we're going to drive down from Sweden to Austria
in your Tesla car. As well.
In the electric car. That's correct. And
you don't want to say Tesla?
Oh yeah, I can say Tesla. I mean, I used to be a Polestar fan.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm a Polestar fanboy.
Yes.
And Katrina still prefers the Polestar. She thinks it's nicer and better. Yeah, she likes it better. No, I mean, it's from a car experience, or from a So she's never been a Tesla fan in terms of how it looks and all that. Yeah. From my point of view, driving, and if you're driving far, it's a huge difference. I drove far this summer when you have the whole charging infrastructure and use plug and play. It's unbeatable.
How long does it take normally for supercharging with Tesla?
This is the whole normal thing, right? You never go below 20%. You never go up above 80% unless you're doing sort of, starting off somewhere, right? So typically, when you're out driving far, it's around 20%, 15%, and then you stay for half an hour.
It's half an hour, basically.
Yeah, more or less, around half an hour, and then you end up at 80 to 90, 85%. And the whole point is, like, after 80%, the speed, the charging speed goes down so radically, right? So you can really see it on when you see how much electricity gets, like, after 80%, it's not. So it's the only times when you stay beyond 80% is like when you really need the 90% to get to your destination. Otherwise, it's.
Or if you're charging overnight, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So charging overnight, of course, but when you're out and about, I don't see any point staying for longer than 45 minutes ever. And typically it's like 30 minutes.
So you charge for 30 minutes and you can drive for 3 hours? Or
So typically when I did a really long trip. I drove from Stockholm to Napoli this summer in many stages, of course. And then it's quite simple because you simply put like the way I do it, I plan it not the whole way. I'm planning what am I trying to achieve today, right? And then when you say that, I want to get to Berlin today or something like that. Okay, and then it sort of plans out the optimum charging. And so sometimes you look at where the superchargers are. So you know what, I'm just gonna drive for 10 minutes out of whatever city, and then I'm gonna stay at that supercharger because it's one of the fast ones. And we're going to top up 20 minutes, and then, so it's all about also what becomes the optimum flow of the trip.
I still remember one of the talks at the Nordic Data Science and Machine Learning Summit like a month ago, where a guy from Tesla spoke about the charger stations, and they used first principle thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
In how to really, and especially in Germany as well, as you are going to drive through.
Yeah.
So they really thought through how to put these kind of charger stations in an optimal way.
Yeah,
to make the driving experience good.
Yeah, and I must say, I actually have an A/B test driving from Borås to Tuscany, because my dad was driving a Volvo full electric, and I was driving a Tesla full electric. So we could really, as nerds, electric car nerds, compare our experiences.
What was the result?
I mean, like there's some. I mean, like this. Obviously, when you're driving across a continent and you're going through different countries, the problem is, like, if you don't have a Tesla where you just go plug and play, you do nothing, right? Yeah. You just plug it in. You need to
the payment is already fixed.
The payment, everything is done, right? But my dad, he has to figure out who's the local operator. And of course, the local operator in Austria or Germany is not the same as in Sweden. So then he needs to basically fix that. He needs to, he can get Ionity, or there's a couple of European, like Ionity is the biggest one in Europe. So he basically, that's how he does it. I stick to Ionity, but then he has substantially less charging stations than Tesla, of course. Right. Well, and the bottom line was, like, my dad was turning 70, and this is in the summertime, so we stayed with our families in a house, and I had a Tesla charging station literally 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from where I lived, and I could just go and plug it in wherever I wanted. And my dad, I'm going to go and charge my car. He was gone for half a day trying to find something that worked. So it was, so that sort of sums up. If you're charging at home, doesn't matter. But it's the long trip advantage that I think Tesla has nailed right now. Yeah. Anyway, but back to your summer project. Mm. So this summer project, what could you, without revealing the secret sauce, what are you working on in now becoming a winter project? What do you want to work on improving?
So as I said, I think it's the stupidest thing you can use AI for is stock predictions. So I really hate that I actually have to spend time doing it. But the alternative of not using AI for that, and you still have to make some investments, because otherwise just leaving money in a bank is not a good idea either. So, of course, I have to have a data-driven approach to this, and I'm forced to use AI for stock prediction. And I think the services out there is horrible. So, yeah, I have to build something myself.
What part of the process are you trying to sort of automate or optimize? That, is it basically nailing which stock to take, or is it what part of the process do you like to try to do better?
I mean, I really want to have a more scientific approach to what really works. And what really works means you have to do proper back testing. It means that you have to really have a buying and selling strategy that you test out, and you can have data backwards that makes it possible to do proper back testing. So if you do that and include the commissions and every other kind of aspects of buying and selling, then you can really show what works and doesn't. And, when I first tried it, like 2 years ago, or the summer before this summer, it didn't work at all. I couldn't hit index. Index was doing so well, so you couldn't really see a statistically significant improvement at all. Yeah. But I could this summer, and that was kind of fun. And basically meant, leaving the technicals, the actual time series on the stocks, completely out of it, and just going for fundamentals and basically events happening for 4 different companies, collecting them, and trying to really understand what does the meaning of some news article or quarterly report or whatever mean. And then from that, trying to get some kind of aggregated view. Is it going up and down or something?
But going for this fundamentals view, is it many trying that view, or is it still very mechanical? I mean, like time series approach.
This is not a field of expertise for me at all. I know some other people that are working in it. And of course, the big hedge fund, are spending billions and billions of dollars into this. And
in all methods.
Yes, in every method possible. But it's a big difference between high frequency trading. I mean, there's no way to even go into that area.
No, it's not. This is something else.
Yes. So this is more long-term and less frequent kind of.
But I was remembering, like, maybe if I remember right, the summary of, from this summer was a little bit like, yep, I can beat it now, but I want to explain it. I want to understand, and I really want to be. I want to be able to follow my own rationale. I want to sort of A/B test against my own judgment. How is it going with that?
No, but I could see the recommendations basically I got from the models to say buy and sell this, and I couldn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me, and I.
But it was still good.
Well, I haven't followed it this autumn. I've done some investment, but I trusted myself more than the model still. So I haven't really had the trust.
You do proper A/B testing, man.
I know I can do it backwards, and I can see it's working. When you do the proper back testing, but it's so irrational kind of recommendations that I get that I can't even understand.
That scares you, right?
So I still haven't really.
So this is what you're working on.
I get some, I get inspiration from it. So I'm sure this type of companies that I had no idea even what that company was, those recommendations I have trusted and did. But then when I look at the technicals and I try to see how can it want me to buy this now, it doesn't make any sense.
So this is what you're working on to get this back testing working. Is that
the back testing is working. It's just that I don't trust the recommendations really. And we'll see.
We'll see.
So I'm going to, of course, use the latest LLMs, and there's so many more options now, and especially I don't have the huge GPUs, that I can use. I have like small.
But can you give us a hint when you're experimenting now? What is the techniques on a high level, without going into detail, that you are sort of that you are experimenting with?
I have some secrets that I don't want to go into, but trying to understand the meaning and get some kind of aggregated understanding that is, in short, is the idea of it. So you can't.
I'm not going to push you on this one. Yeah, good.
But still, you have to make it work on consumer grade stuff, and then it can't be like 70 billion parameter models. It has to be some smaller ones. We have so many now awesome open source models that are much smaller.
But then I have another question. What type of hardware are you optimizing your model for?
Yeah, well, it's a small, like 3060 kind of NVIDIA stuff. It's not. Oh no, 3080, I think.
But the point is to as a home investor, what would you want to have as your sort of setup? Right, you should work on that.
Yeah, I would like to have an H100 or
but that is not really the home computer typical. No. You could, but yeah. No. So it's a normal machine, advanced machine.
I love that we see the current trend, I think, going from these huge models to actually having practical models, both when it comes to Gemini and these kind of 1.7 billion and 3.2 billion, but also now the recent one from Microsoft, the Phi 2.0, that is, I think, around 3 billion parameters and still kicks ass. And that's very much possible to use on even very small grade GPUs. So,
but maybe that's a segue.
Yes,
this is the segue. To do you want to set up this episode?
Yeah, I guess it's the end of the year kind of
Christmas special.
Christmas special.
Let's call it like that.
Yes,
end of the year Christmas special. Yeah. Summing up the year, making some predictions for next year.
And we're not having a guest this time, so it's just you and me, Henrik.
Yes, I'm on the guest side, so that's all right.
Henrik is the guest. No, but it's kind of it's different not having a guest, but it's also nice to be able to.
No, but it's reflecting on all the guests. Yes. So, like, if today we don't have one guest, we have all the guests from episode 99 to episode 115, roughly. Some 86 guests from 86. Goran, help us. When did the season start? episode 86.
Maybe that's a good actually segue. So I'm feeling like a judge in Yugoslavia.
A judge in Yugoslavia.
Yes, it's episode 86 actually. We started actually the year with episode 86 with Josef and Victor from Moduli. So that was actually the first one. Nice. It was focusing on MLOps, a very early one actually, because even then we were talking about like the future of generative AI and the upcoming AI Act. I was just reading through the transcripts, and it seems like the AI Act we have been focusing on the entire year, and then finally made it happen on the end. But yes, 86. So in total this year we have had...
Goran is calculating in his head.
116 minus 86.
So 34, all right. 34 episodes in total. So that is not actually very bad. I also reflected today when we were speaking with Anders. I thought that this year and these 2 seasons went very fast. And we didn't have so many guests, but actually
we did. Long summer break, actually.
Yeah,
we had a long summer break. That's true.
But it was a very big amount of people actually.
Yeah.
Very big diversity of people this year. In the past 5 seasons. Before these 2, so we are right now ending the 7th season. I think we focus mostly on the practitioners, so very technical and very business-oriented people, trying to demystify the AI. That was the initial idea from the beginning as well. And this year we have been focusing quite a lot on diversification and especially how to implement this in larger organizations and public sector and etc. And what was very interesting and profound for me and also very satisfying is that we managed to be a little bit spontaneous and get panels instead of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a number of news, I guess, for the way we had the podcast this year. One is the panels that we tried out, but also the news section. It's a news in itself. I think it worked out surprisingly well.
Yeah, it did.
So 2 small innovations for the way we have done the podcast. It has been panels and the news section.
Yes. And we needed to change the supplier for the ham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was terrible.
That was a terrible one, yeah. But it is...
And for all the snacks we have every
That's what happens when AI comes in play, you know.
But we also had a rather big news, I think, just last week, right, to go around for the Christmas gift for the podcast, so to speak.
Yes, so we ended up being listed as number 16 out of the top 100 AI podcasts to listen to in 2023.
In the world? Or
in
on
the world,
planet?
globally. So this was actually really nice thing to see and hear. And it's also acknowledgement that we are, we still make impact while having fun.
Because I remember some years, like a year back, or a couple of years back, I think we were I think it was the same list, place 49.
It was
right?
the same list actually. So it was on the 47, I think it was.
Okay.
So the list has dramatically changed this year, and of course we need to ask as well how do they construct it and etc. So it would be a little bit more interesting to hear. But there was a lot of podcasts that we used to hear about, and they were there, but they were not there this year on that list. But it doesn't matter. For me personally, that list doesn't make any significance, but it's good to feel that we are making a difference while we are having fun, and I think this is the.
But some sort of reward, because we're doing it a lot. We love it. It's fun, and we're learning. But it's also rewarding to get recognition. I felt super proud.
Make some use as well, not just us having fun, but actually people are also finding value from it. So that's
and we're still trying to understand how many is listening and how that works. Is still really hard when you're disseminating on all platforms.
Exactly. I mean, keep in mind that we have been doing 3.5 years. We have been stuck in this dungeon every Thursday.
Stuck? I don't know.
Well, we need to make it a little bit painful. So
it's very painful.
Yeah, it is extremely. So 3.5 years, and we have done over 10,000 minutes of content. I think that we are still far away from Joe Rogan and the amount of content that he has put down, but I'm still happy.
Yeah,
I think that we have
10,000. That's of course, because we're doing long formats, that it
Yes.
sort of stacks up fast.
Yes.
In some ways.
And it's been an extremely good journey, and a lot of learnings and great contacts actually, and people that we have had in this podcast. So I'm super satisfied.
And I like the diversity that you said we've had, especially I think this year as well. I mean, it was all from AI for education, of course. We had AI for healthcare, but also these kind of a bit more strange one, like AI for dancing with Kaisa, or AI for fashion, and these kind of things.
And gaming as well.
We had creative directors, and we had gaming, and we had so many angles.
So many angles, and we can go through some of them. I think is very interesting. But what I'm trying to get at is that a lot of things have happened this year, and especially with the ChatGPT 4 and BART and everything that has happened. We finally came to a moment where AI is immersed in almost every beat of our lives, and even the grandmas are talking about AI right now. So the purpose of what we have been talking and working with the past 10 years, which is demystifying AI and making sure that people understand the value of it, we're already there.
I think the big change is we always believed. I mean, I've been working with AI for over 20 years, and I've been trying to tell people that it will have a huge impact on society. But people are just rolling their eyes and saying, it's just another technique. It won't really make a big difference. But now when everyone actually can use AI, even non-technical people that can just go to a website and ask it any question, and it gets surprisingly good answers. And you can see it is some kind of intelligence across the board. You know these words? Mm-hmm. You know who said some kind of intelligence across the board? That was actually the Kasparov, when Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov for the first time in 97.
Some across the board has a deeper meaning.
I can see, I would like to remember the exact quote, but something. I can see something, it's a new type of intelligence across the board. And he could see it done in 97, but now I think everyone can see it across the board. That it is some kind of intelligence happening here.
Yes, but then I have a small rabbit hole about this. It's actually a little bit like a question. So, do they? I mean,
if they have intelligence, or what?
No. Do people will ask like, oh wow, this is AI, is intelligence, or basically, I think that the point with technology is that it's. You know that this technology is going to change everything when people do not even question it. And people usually question technology when they don't understand it, what they say, but eventually they don't understand how they can get some value out of it. What do I get from it, right? So for the past 7 years, nobody got it, and everybody was afraid of it. And suddenly now you have all the girls and kids in the school using it, and everybody is using it. Nobody is even questioning, like, okay, what is behind it? Oh, it's a large language model. How many times you have spoken with your kids like, oh, well, it's a large language model behind it.
Commoditized or ubiquitous in some way, very quickly.
Exactly.
Very quickly. But that went very fast.
And that is my point with this. It's like, so as this year is passing by, and we will talk about the biggest breakthroughs in this, I think that it's even more important to have platforms like this where we talk about this technology.
And also perhaps explain the history, because people think, it's a natural part of everyday life these days, but it wasn't this case just a few years ago.
Yeah, 1 year ago, it was not the case. Then there is a lot of, I would say there is a lot of confusion what is out there. There are a lot of, right now, I was looking yesterday at some training programs about utilizing AI in all sorts of things, from people that I have never actually seen in my life. Of course, they're certified trainers and etc., but they're not per se AI people, right? So there is a lot of people that are just utilizing the hype in order to make money, and even more people will do it next year. So I think it's important that there is a platform where you basically can hear about, like, okay, this is how it's done, this is what it is, and etc. So our purpose with this podcast is even becoming more important in future.
Yeah. Because demystify to some degree has always been about moving away from the hype and more practically talking about how does it work, what do we work on. If you're a business person, what are you working on if you're trying to implement AI? If you're a scientist, what are you actually working on if you're trying to implement AI? If you're an engineer, etc., etc. And I think the challenge with the hype, that when it goes up like it has done this year, is that we get bombarded with messages around what we should do, or what education we should take, or what
FOMO, right?
or what technology we should buy. And this is sort of building the FOMO, the fear of missing out. And in reality, it becomes super hard, I think, to step into this arena and start doing something useful with this stuff. Yes. And then I think it becomes even more important, like everything else, right? You need to start being careful. Who do I listen to?
Exactly.
Who is my personal, private, trusted advisor is the wrong word, but who do I listen to? Who knows me and who can guide me in this? And then I think, when we have 116 guests plus over these 7 years, we have literally started ticking off the real data and AI community in at least Sweden, and to some parts Nordics and Northern Europe. These people is a little bit like, they are here because we know what they have done. And the community know what they've done, so they are interesting to listen to.
Exactly, and we always said, like, we are making a time capsule of the people that are actually creating the future as we know it.
Yeah,
and these are the people signed there on that piece of painting and etc. Like 115 of them, and they are the ones that are actually making this happen.
Yeah, but just a personal reflection is, like, out of those 116 people that we've had here, how many of them have sort of popped up on our radar based on generative AI in the last year? Maybe one or two that they were doing something super, that is doing something exciting. I'm thinking about the fashion AI. I mean, like, we didn't know, we would never have found that angle. But if you look at the broader picture, dude, we know these people are people in the community, right?
And I think you said it well as well, Henrik. And I think last week you said, I actually have a news that it's not related to large language models. And it's kind of absurd, what focus it has been on one part of AI. And in reality, there are so many other parts and aspects of AI that most people are working with, but doesn't really get the attention at all in media or in people's minds.
Yeah, but maybe we should wrap that up and sort of, what's the structure for today? Do we have an agenda?
First, maybe it's a good segue, actually, because maybe we can start first with your personal... basically summary of the year, not in an aspect of the conference, but basically on the learnings that you have done, your personal take on the podcast and the people that we met. And then maybe we can move to the second part, which will be looking at the year from a perspective of what actually technologically has happened and how this has impacted actually public and private sector and the enterprises, and how people are actually utilizing this, and to that extent even society, because we had some guests that were coming that are doing quite well in that aspect. And then the third one, we can actually look at some of the favorite moments of the year.
Yeah,
right. So a little bit of a summary. So we can do that. If you want, I can start actually going through the entire 32 episodes very shortly, and then
why don't we get an executive summary? What happened this year?
All right, so let's do that actually. So this is going to be a round segment over 5 minutes. I will try to squeeze in. So actually, as I mentioned, we started. This is actually right now we're ending the 7th season of the podcast. So 3.5 years into this, over 10,000 minutes of content. We started the year actually with the season 6 on 19th of January. So the first guest was, I do apologize, Joseph and Victor Olberg from Moduli, and we were discussing MLOps at that point of time. Then we had Stefan Vendin from Neo4j that point of time, basically. But we were talking about social engineering and graphs, if you remember. It was a very fun episode when he was talking about how he was manipulating social media algorithms for different purposes. I thought that it was a little bit off what we have been doing, but it was a very fun as well thing to listen to. Then we had Louise Van Erel, who was here actually. She's from the Upskill company, and we were talking about tech talent and recruitment and reskilling, which I believe that still is a very underlooked aspect of AI in general, because AI equals change and change equals people, and we are not talking enough about it. So we should take a little bit more in the upcoming year. Then we talked about citizen data scientists, which is a very, very good topic actually, because this happened before AI got democratized. So if you recall, the citizen data scientist was this effort to democratize data science across all the users in the organization by making a data science simple for everyone. And then ChatGPT came and then basically simplified for everybody else, right? Then
it's like an elements of AI, but for everyone in a company in some sense. So
yes.
Everyone should have like a basic understanding of what AI really is.
Yes, and how to utilize it in general. So then we had like a Martin Svensson and Mikael Ljungblom from AI Sweden. We were discussing AI in public sector, and especially how the Nordics can be better in many aspects when it comes to AI, from talent to enabling organizations and public sector to be better with that. And Martin Svensson is right now part of the AI Commission as well. So we are extremely happy that he was on the show. Then we had Andreas Westner.
Actually, I need to jump in.
Yeah.
We have had at least 2 guests who are now on the AI Commission.
Yes.
Fredrik Heinz
Yes.
and Martin Svensson, right?
I think we have another one as well.
And one more, right?
Yeah, but I will come back to that. Then we moved in with the predictive analytics type of a topic, which I think that is also underlooked part when it comes to deriving value out of data, and that is insight. So Andreas was talking about pricing analytics. He's coming from Ignize, a new company that he started after Naveti. Great guy. Then we had the same date when the OpenAI launched the API for ChatGPT 4, I believe. We had actually Arno and Sameral Mumbayed from Furhat here.
All right.
So keep in mind that this was in the same day. So
That was cool, by the way.
and the API was released basically the night. So they were coding the entire night. And then when we came here, we had like a first demo of how is to implement ChatGPT into a living robot, or not living robot, but living is
physical robot.
Physical robots. And it was about the text prompting translated into speech and voice and sound, so to speak, and we could then interact with the fur hat robot.
I mean, it's kind of extreme to be able to do that in hours.
In hours.
Imagine if we have enterprises that could move innovation that fast. That, of course, does not happen, and normally it takes many years for an enterprise to move from an idea to a product like this.
They could.
They could, in theory.
Corona showed some of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and then to continue, so basically we were talking then AI and self-driving cars with Daniel Skilde here. That was a great, actually, episode.
A lot of learnings there.
Yeah, a lot of learnings, and Daniel is a very outspoken speaker, and really, actually, some good gems about self-driving vehicles and AI in general, and not generative AI. We are talking about traditional applied AI. Then a lot of things started happening with Google, if you remember, and Bard and everything else. So we called Luca, Oliver, and Alexandra Kafka to have like an overview of everything that was happening, because at that point of time, generative AI would just basically, it just exploded everywhere.
It exploded, was in all media, everywhere. And I think at that point in time, I remember this vividly because I missed the episode, and I listened to the episode in my car, and I was blown away by our pod. This is by far the best storytelling and communication about what's happening right now.
It was a really good dynamic.
It's one of my favorites as well.
Because the level of quality, the level of know-how, but also the level of communication. I was sitting there.
All of these people are so good in communicating.
That's the point, right?
Luca and Oliver and Evelina, and they all complement each other.
Alexandra was there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, they have so good skills in doing that. So that's really impressive.
Yeah. And then we continued basically with productivization of data. We have Christopher O'Green from Telia here. And they did a fantastic job with their crowd
insight,
yes.
Like they used, they really were contributing to how we managed the corona epidemic in Sweden.
Yes.
And they were helping out in many ways.
Yes.
And they did it in a way that was, compliant and very, very robust. of course, they had a head start because they've been working on these topics, but they could take something they've been working on and tweak it. And then they could basically make a big difference.
And make a product out of it. And they were in the right position to do it as well with their IoT sensors and mobile towers and everything. Then we had another episode where we were looking at AI and for electrification with Gervol Zedwitz and Sebastian Kaus. So both coming from Scania and Vattenfall, which was a very good intersect between two big giants. First time meeting on this podcast and being able to start breaking some ideas about how they can collaborate when it comes to AI.
And this is, of course, one of my favorite episodes. We can talk about it more, but of course, having worked both with Scania and Vattenfall, and then now more deeply understand the transport ecosystem, and then understanding how this starts to interrelate, and the data is sort of an underpinning capability in all these algorithms. That was super cool. But it was fun to see two different, on the surface, different industries. They found each other and they,
But they were not, because if you look at it, they are, if they combine their efforts, they can actually. There was, if you listen to
the opportunities there.
If you listen to the episode, if somebody is smart, they can just basically take that idea and make a multi-million business out of it. So that is episode 96, by the way. If you're listening, if you're curious, go there. Then actually we had Jussi here. So we were talking about limitations of current generative AI and LLM models. Keep in mind this, we are still early. This is April, where we are talking about generative AI. And Jussi just joined Silo AI at that point of time.
Right.
And I believe, Anders, you were taking the lead on that one.
Yeah. He's a very knowledgeable person, of course. You see Carl Green, right?
But this is also another favorite, because here we were not. Sometimes we have too much agreement with our guests.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But here actually we had some good debating going on. I love that.
Then we, of course, Henrik is breaking some things. Then we moved actually with Dachil Hernandez and innovation and inventions and diffusions. So this is where Henrik was actually having a very large debate with Dachil about innovation versus invention versus diffusion.
Diffusion, yeah.
Yes, this was before the Data Innovation Summit. So you can see that you were preparing for.
I was preparing I was preparing already then. I was testing some material.
Yeah. Then we moved on with basically the state of digitalization in AI in Sweden again. But now we had for the first time a politician, active politician, on the podcast, and she was.
I was really
amazing.
Surprised.
So Maria
Stockhouse was a true pleasure.
Out of this,
and we all had. Let's be honest, right? We thought, we're going to have the politician speech and we're going to have the politician answers, and she was so authentic.
Yes,
a real person and really switched on, curious. I was like, yep, that's the person I want to follow and help.
Exactly. Absolutely one of the gems. And I was mind blown by the transparency as well, and how everything works and what are the hinders and challenges and opportunities with this area.
This was a major learning, because this is how is politics done, man? It's like it's a craftsmanship in itself to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to be a politician as well. They have to know everything about everything, and they can't, of course, but it's glad to see that a lot of people do have at least, a really good understanding of even advanced techniques.
But this is so important then now. So this is a craft to be a politician and to craft laws and regulations and budgets and investment for our society. And we need to know how that works in order to be part of it and influence it. And so that was a fantastic episode for me.
I agree. Then we had basically the legal aspects of AI, and this is actually also one of my favorites. We had Claire Ignom Bogus and Jannica Thunquist here, and this was mind-blowing basically in terms of the upcoming AI Act and regulations, and especially intellectual property when it comes to generative AI.
Yeah, that was the main theme there was intellectual property.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah. I keep in mind that like so many things has happened, but before, many of these LLM providers, they changed their terms and conditions quite a lot. I was actually now last week on Boomi. There is this application where you can generate AI music. And now when you enter, I haven't been there for a long time, so I needed something. So like, okay, let me generate something because we are recording another pod in the same studio now. So I needed to make a music. And so like, okay, let me generate a AI. So I went there, logged in, and the first thing that pops out is basically the terms and conditions. And it's like, okay, I will read it this time, especially who owns it. And they have made it very vividly that basically they own the intellectual property. At any point of time, they can claim it, right? So for a producer like me, when I produce something like this, if I put it on YouTube and everybody else, if the music and everything else belongs to somebody else, of course, then the credits and the monetization and money goes to that person or to that identity. So only with that is a huge problem. So I had to basically, I went back, so I had a little bit like around 3 hours. So I created my own music back home. Like I sit down on a piano the old-fashioned way. Let's do something. But that is also shows actually that we are so early with the generative AI, and everybody is actually thinking that they can get the benefit out of it very quickly. But you know, devil is in the details. So you need to understand what you're doing. And
I think the whole intellectual property game is evolving at a rapid pace now, and you have updated terms and agreements.
But also, I think the tech giants especially is recognizing this problem. They are trying to, for their generative services, have this kind of indemnification service where if someone gets sued like this,
I heard
then
that.
they actually will pay for the damages.
Yeah, that was Microsoft that came out. Everybody came out and basically say they're putting away a buffer, right?
A buffer, they will cover the legal expenses and the damages potentially if you get sued. So I think that's a simple.
Everybody recognizing that this is unknown territory. We need to help each other.
Lawsuits will come. There is no running away. We can talk about
but the big tech giants is stepping up then to sort of...
to move forward. But that episode is actually something that many people should listen to because I think there are beautiful gems about it. And if you need any assistance with this, you should contact Claire and Yannicka. They're experts in this area. Then we finalized the season 6 on the same day when we had the 100th episode Podfest here in the...
Yeah, that's right. That was a good episode.
Studio. And that was with Staffan Trouvé.
A real legend.
Yes, a real legend from...
Chief Talking Officer at Recorded Future.
Yes, Chief Talking Officer.
I love him. He's such a good and knowledgeable person as well.
But okay, so can we say that Recorded Future, can we claim it as a Swedish company?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but because they have so many ties. I know, but I think we almost lost them to Silicon Valley. We almost lost them to.
Yeah, but for me, that episode is actually, if you're looking at the cyber threat and you want to understand how exposed people are and how organizations are looking at this and how much money is thrown to protect identities and organizations from cyber terror right now. That episode is something that you need to.
No, and if anyone wants to get a glimpse on how AI can be used in security, cybersecurity, and what is actually the cutting edge, in my opinion, around thinking and first principles of how to use this. I think Recorded Future has been on this game for a long time compared to many others.
With a very nice vision as well to be the world's largest private intelligence service. It's nice vision.
And very super positive person. I haven't never seen a more positive person in my life. I thought that this was just like I was spellbound.
Yeah, and we were saying it before the pod. Like he's been a long time in the industry, and he giddy as a schoolboy.
Yeah.
So cool.
Amazing. So that was it for season 6. Season 7, I will speed up this because it's not 5 minutes as we said, as usual. But we are still good, I think. We started actually with an update. So we got Luca here and Evelina and Oliver again. So
that was fun.
That was super fun.
That was one of my favorites for sure.
This is immediately after the summer, so somewhere in September actually we started, and there's some beautiful gems there as well, and updates of what works and what not works. At this point of time, we started to see actually a differentiation between all of these LLMs and how they work, and Luca was actually testing most of them, and he was saying like which one, they were talking about which one actually is good, which one is not. Oliver was also discussing a little bit more about investments in the area and what is going on with the startups, and how organizations should focus on data.
But it was a nice diversity in this balance in this
and
panel.
Evelina, of course, AI and regulation, which is
VC as well.
VC as well, which is beautiful. Then we move with AI governance and ESG data management with Vanessa Eriksson. This is something that will be more important even in 2024 as the taxonomy is coming in. And most of the companies are focusing on the environment safe.
Social and governance.
And as we know now, the things are getting even more stricter, with all the countries agreeing to even be more strict on the policies regarding CO2.
No, but it's interesting because this topic has sort of has really had two dimensions.
Yes.
Because it's the dimension of adhering to ESG compliance, regulation, and data.
I think we should call Aurora again back.
Maybe, yeah, and then because that's the whole thing, like that this is actually a quite complex data problem to deal with this type of reporting and analytics, yes. And then you have the fundamentals of how we can have more energy sustainable data and data management overall. So this is sort of the underlying what we are trying to achieve with being more sustainable, and then it's actually the data problem of dealing with the reporting around that. Yeah. And these are two major trends, I would say, that will kick into 2024 with the regulations around this in the EU, especially around this reporting.
I completely agree, and we should look at this actually from. I would love to have a CEO or somebody very high, just looking at how they are thinking they're going to actually make this possible without having data and AI.
The interesting point was that, in my opinion, the wrong type of consultants has been advising on this, because ESG reporting is a data problem.
But of course, consultant is there to sell your problem, not to sell your symptom, not to sell your solution.
That's true. All right, let's go.
Not all of them. Just to repeat. Then we moved actually with AI in education and transformative role in AI in education. This was Anders Enström, and this was awesome.
Again,
yes.
Great.
A person that is really involved in education, not an AI practitioner or super expert in the field, but actually
AI practitioner user, right. Not AI engineer.
Yes.
But also a great communicator, I must say.
But a great communicator, a great evangelist, and, a great lobbyist, I would add, in terms of how do we use AI in education. And if you've seen how much he puts up in social media, he's part of the debate, and even, we had some really brutal conversations about some of our top politicians that really have no clue, in my opinion, when I, compared to, if I take Anders' insights with me, like what we think is the future of education. So I think he was spot on.
One of the things that he said, basically, which stuck me, and I was speaking with my girls at home. So he mentioned, like, we are preparing kids, we are educating for jobs that they will not exist. So we are preparing for something that actually is not going to be there in a couple of years. And I think it's super profound and very honest and truthful, because if we are denying utilization of these tools and we are not educating people how to use them, they're going to find a way. They will use them, but they will use them in a different, maybe even wrong manners, right? So we need to start doing that. We need to preparing them for the future, because this is escalating.
And what becomes super clear when you have someone who is a professional educator himself, so he can't sort of talk, he needs to implement this as well as a gymnasielärare, right? Then it becomes super obvious how important it is for a whole profession to be on top of it. And not only the profession to be on top of it, to the regulators or the people putting up the frameworks, because Otherwise, our education will be irrelevant.
Yes. There are many discussions that education has been irrelevant for many years. I think that the change has been
but the whole thing about adaptability and innovation in education has to keep pace.
Highly recommended. So it was good. Then we had actually investing in the Nordic AI. So we had Rebecca Rido, and she's just awesome. She's a person that she's been monitoring this area for a long time, and she's lead investors.
Could you mention where she works?
She used to be an investor, but right now it's called.
Put you on the spot.
No.
Inventure, right?
Inventure, right?
Give me a second. I will find it right now. So give me a second.
Because she's in the VC space, so of course I was just gonna do a shout out. Sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I mean, I cannot remember everything, but it's good. So now we are having. It was Inventure. Good. You see, note taking.
Note-taking master.
That is what it takes. Sorry about being so late. Great episode if you want to understand how basically to start a company that is working, or if you have an idea that will use AI, generative AI, or you have like an idea for a company that will help the development in this area. That is a great episode actually to listen to what investors are looking at and how they are investing these days, especially when it's everything is about AI. Then we had two amazing episodes, which were again not AI experts or data experts, but actually users of the technology. And that was actually Magnus Ostergren. So he was talking about like AI and democratization of creativity. So he's like a game producer. That was amazing. And then we had like Carl Axel Wallström, who is basically the person that created the first AI fashion magazine. Have you seen how famous he is right now?
Yeah, it's all over. Like, I saw him everywhere.
Crazy how he's like, but
a bit of a scope there. We had him early.
But it was amazing. And if somebody wants to really understand how prompt
his prompt engineering tips that he gave really learned me a lot. So I learned a lot from a more.
But the interesting thing was
like to really create images, and have the proper techniques, which is very different from what you think. Yes. So I would really encourage people to listen to this if they want to learn it.
Was it a little bit like unlearning assumptions and then learning? No. This is the way. This is the experimentation way that seems to work.
What my biggest takeaway there for the prompting part was that I thought that you need to write, for example, give me a butterfly in the sky, blue colors, this one, that.
Hard work.
Like hard works, like sky, butterfly, and things like that. So, but also it broke down this stigma that. You just utilize AI and everything is perfect. No, it's not. Behind that 300-page magazine, every single picture took at least like 20 hours or something like that to be produced. So first you had the prompting of the picture, then you had like a lot of retouching and making sure that it's like correct and all these other things. So it's not just
AI augmentation,
right?
And it's like
enlargement and all of these other things, then putting it and curating all the magazines. So it's not that easy.
No, and in the end, it's an AI process with several AI tools, or algorithm supported tools in different ways, even down to Photoshop, which is also, of course, algorithms in the back.
Then we had Josephine Rosen. She's like a diva almost when it comes to regulation and AI. So she was talking about the future of trustworthy AI here. And Josephine is also a winner of the Nordic DARE Awards for responsible AI. So we had like a great discussion about the upcoming act. It was a good discussion, also, actually a feisty one, if I remember.
And we talked about the executive order and other things.
But also the Bletchley Park declaration just happened. And so did the executive order. So many things were happening. Very timely to her podcast.
So her podcast and with her as a guest, I mean, like, it was so cool when she could sort of name drop. Oh yeah, my boss was standing next to Biden when he did the executive order.
Yes,
that's cool.
That was really nice.
That's cool.
And then for the final ones, we had basically Magnus Kjellberg here, which we were discussing AI in healthcare. So that was a great presentation or basically session to listen to. Then we had Ole Zachrisson. That was a funny one, actually, but a lot of practical examples of how to utilize actually AI
in journalism.
In journalism.
Sveriges Radio, and what really stood out as an interesting point with Ole is, and I can see many similarities. I come from the business background, and really, when you get to really hardcore trying to adopt AI in any operations, you need the people who has starting to learn about and piloting and testing AI, but his depth in understanding the media landscape and his profession is profound, right? So that combination is super. It's sort of a mind opener that you need to have both the business view and the AI view very closely together.
Yes. And super interesting what is happening actually and how they are thinking about it. So they're not shy to utilize this technology, which was
not at all.
Very surprising and very encouraging, so to say. How to build LLMs with Ariel Ekren. Ariel Ekren. Now that was a very interesting discussion, because also we had for the second time when people do not agree. So it was very interesting. So it was a topic where we were discussing about the Swedish language model. That was
GP3.
Proper pronunciation.
Which is basically now available for all organizations to utilize, and
it's on Hugging Face as well.
Yes, exactly. And then the last two is actually NLP and engineering with Kajsa Noring, but also it was AI and dancing episode.
And I went to their dancing show as well before the episode. So she had a premiere in Dansens Hus. I think it's still playing if someone wants to go to it. So they used AI to actually produce the choreography and the instruction for the human dancers that later actually performed it. And it was...
I might actually go.
Yeah.
I'm here for the Christmas, so that could be interesting. And then finally, last week we had here... Patrick Ekemo and Daniel from, sorry, I cut you because you were eating chips, and Daniel from Bolagsverket, and we were discussing AI in public sector. We were discussing AI Act because Daniel was a very important...
He's been through the whole process in different roles.
And in a timely manner, because the AI Act was just basically pushed forward as well.
The same week,
The same week. So we had like a lot of good scoops there. And I actually got a very good feedback about that episode.
Yeah.
That people
and it's also nice.
Really
Patrick, that's been in DIG and so many other places and has been a long, very prominent person in AI. You know, he spoke about Bolagsverken, and they want to be a role model in how to properly digitize an agency, and I think that truly are doing that. So it's great to see.
Yeah, but it was also very interesting to hear about the European consortium, the European collaborations around the identity, the wallet. I forget the European EC. What is it? ECW.
EWC, I think.
Yeah, EWC. Sorry.
The European Wallet Consortium.
Yeah, which is basically then looking at many different facets of why do we need to have a very seamless way to deal with identity and data in many different ways in Europe.
So fast. I think they're planning already in 2026 to have like a European wallet and potentially some means of identification, which is surprising if they actually manage to do that in just a year or two. So I'm hoping they are correct.
Yeah. But what stood out to me is I really like the way, I mean, like, there's a couple of things here. I mean, like, if we're a little bit rude and cynical, in Sweden, we kind of tag along in the EU, and we sort of, other people are sort of lobbying more or getting more money or using more money. And we haven't sort of been, if I'm going to put it brutally, play the game well enough. But in this case, here we have Bolagsverket leading one of the consortiums. And the way they do it with a combination of private sector, expert actors and others, I think it's something really interesting to look into and learn from and do more of. I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, they truly are a role model in that aspect as well. And also, once again, we had the luck of having a very timely episode with David Magod that actually was part of the Swedish team for the AI Act.
Yeah.
And now we had a big agreement, coming forward in Europe for the AI Act as well, just in time for this episode. So if you want to learn more about that.
Yeah, and to be able to dissect it at the after work, nothing said, nothing forgotten.
Yeah, I wish people could take part of the most interesting part of the podcast, which happened after we turn off the cameras.
Yes, usual. But in summary, last year when we sat down and started to basically pencil what is going to happen this year, we said let's move from demystification of AI to actually how organizations can actually put this in practice and showcase solutions. Yeah, exactly, and showcase the solutions and the use cases of these things. And we didn't expect that everything will go so fast, but when I look back actually on all the speakers and the episodes that we had and the guests and etc., it was really we were really on the dot, because this is a user AI user year, I would say.
It's the year of the user. I had that in my mind.
Yes. So
interesting.
I'm super happy actually with the entire 2 seasons, and I'm very thankful to everybody who actually made it to the podcast, and we hope so that we'll continue like that in the next year as well. So
all right. So that was not 5 minutes, Goran.
Yeah, but I think that I managed to cover
5 minutes was a joke.
5 minutes per person. Okay.
Exactly, not 5 minutes per person. But
it's okay.
I think that we also managed to do a little bit of a summary of the year as well, because
combine the two basically.
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
But from here, should we now maybe, how would you summarize the year, Anders, in terms of what happened? What are the top 5, 6 topics that we want to highlight?
For me, I just want to repeat once again, to sit on this side of the podcast table and just broaden the view in ways you would never do otherwise is a very great learning experience.
Yeah.
So just doing these podcasts, even though we prepare very little for them, we learn so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first reaction to it, and it happened this year again, which is great.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite learning sort of thing, or was something that stood out as a main learning point of view for you?
I always learn a lot when Luca is here.
Yeah, I agree.
But also, and it's so many things. And I think in the news section as well that we started to do this autumn was surprisingly useful. So thanks, Goran, for making that happen. And it was really a lot of news that happened that was very good.
Yeah, one of my favorites as a learning experience was actually a little bit talking to Maria Stockhaus, to getting a little bit more deeper understanding of the political process, so to speak. And I think the main takeaway for me was how important it is that we as a society understand the political process in order to be a democracy, in order to influence it. And I think there is some gap here. I mean, we are all experts in our fields, right? And if we want to help ourselves, we need to help the politicians, and we need to then understand their process. Yeah, that was a big for me.
Yeah, I agree. And one concept that Lucas spoke a lot about, and I was also thinking more about, was the idea of theory of mind. So we were saying that ChatGPT potentially have the possibility and the capability to put oneself into the mind of another person. And I think this is actually what we are doing a bit, you and me, Henrik. And I think everyone should, if you have a politician, for example, if you don't understand their view of things, to put yourself in their mind, to have a theory of mind of what the people that are potentially using it, or being politicians, or having some, being a policymaker or a user of it, if you can't put yourself in the mind of that person, you will not be able to make a change. And I think that's one of the bigger learnings that Maria and other guests.
And now you summed it really well, because now I need to feel almost obliged to put the year in perspective of myself and Derdax. So, because this is I've been working closely with Tetra Pak this year, and we actually been working with the central data science team. Alberto Barroso is leading that, and he has several sort of team leads and stuff like that.
You should get him on the podcast.
Yeah, he should, of course.
A great person.
Alberto should be on the podcast. Why haven't he been here? Rasmus in his team has been in. Rasmus Thornberg has been here, but not Alberto. The main topic we've been working on is to have a more adoption-centric approach in how we drive investments and projects. So the typical blind spot is exactly what you're talking about. How do we put ourselves in the other person's shoes, in the user's shoes? How will the business leader experience this? So it's so easy that so in reality, Alberto doesn't have a data science problem. He has so good people. The main challenge is how do we navigate in a very complex landscape as Tetra Pak now, because now it's not only one market, right? You need to not only put yourself in the shoes of the guys in Lund. You need to go, it's all about putting yourself in the other person's shoes and navigating from that perspective, which is now, that's why I wanted, so the adoption or this sort of, what you said, how did Luca phrase it? I love that way of the perception.
The theory of mind idea.
The theory of mind idea, right?
You can actually put yourself in the head of the other person that you're speaking to, and potentially AI can do that, and I certainly think it can already today.
So we maybe can get help. So in this change in adoption, I should maybe ask the AI, how should I frame my communication for a salesperson?
Of a salesperson, or a politician, or a
lovely
CEO. Or
keep in mind that ChatGPT right now accepts tips. So he's getting lazier because now he's not incentivized enough.
Yeah, you should. If you want him to be good, ask him please. If you want to, tell him not to be racist. He's getting really lazy, ChatGPT.
And corrupted, obviously, because if you're like, he will do it for the highest bid.
That's funny. Okay, any other key learnings?
I think the OpenAI drama was still such a weird thing to happen, and the quick turnaround on that. It's like it's like a story that if you saw the manuscript for the movie, you wouldn't believe it. It's too absurd.
It's too absurd, right?
Basically the dikten överträffar verkligheten. How do you say that in English?
The fiction beats reality.
Yeah, in some way.
Yeah.
It was weird.
But I was trying to sort of summarize, from 2023, some 4 or 5 main things. Sort of, we were talking about this before.
Yes.
So we had one big moment, of course, if we go outside the pod now and talk about what happened in 2023. So you kind of need to put one sentence like AI in mainstream media. AI is discussed by my grandmother.
So in media, but basically in all people.
All people.
Yes.
And we had anecdotes. I had anecdotes. I went to an event. Has nothing to do with AI. I speak with an elderly couple, and she doesn't know what I'm working with. She starts talking AI doomer speak. And it's interesting, right? And that's one, and that led me into the second one, the whole AI doomer movement. Right. That sort of grew, right?
With Max Tegmark's
summer speech.
Yeah, that's.
I'm reading Max Tegmark's Leave 3.0 right now. It's actually really good.
Yeah, I mean he's
a brilliant person. But I'm really sad that he came across as a doomer.
Yeah.
Because when I read his book, he doesn't come across that bad of a boomer, to be honest. And what else? And then I put another third one. We talked about this, the model and going to production frenzy in 2023. We so much.
Exactly. Both saw a lot of models coming out, but I think what was even more impressive this year was actually big companies putting models in production into their products, into all the operating system of Windows, into the web browsers, into the whole Office suite. Google did the exact same thing into the workspaces. Meta did the same thing.
And who could keep up, right? I mean, it was so much going on. I mean, you were trying to, we could summarize the year in this way. And then you showed me a slide with model A, B, C. It was used to releases after release after release during 2023. Your head spins, right? Yeah. And then we had all the model, and then we had the plugins, right? So all the products that came out very fast in terms of different types of API plugins approaches. Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff going on in that field for a while there. And then, soap opera I already mentioned. You mentioned the soap opera. So media, doomer, models, soap opera. Anything else that sort of caught our attention if you want to summarize it in some...
To mention
you have your 5 or...
Yeah, those my 5.
We kind of made on these in the beginning, but I think just to put some of the big stories out there, and I think Gemini was kind of weird when it came out. I was speaking about oh, it's so good in multimodality, and then it turned out a week later they basically faked a lot of the videos, and it's really put me off, I must say. I mean, Google did it again. They did the same with Duplex and other things. What are their marketing department really doing?
Because you want to love them.
No, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're only shitty at that because they got caught.
But they got caught the last time as well. And it's, why? And they don't have to. I was a bit surprised with that. But still, it's glad that OpenAI gets some competition at least. So that's good, I guess. But also one of the things that we haven't spoken about is, I think, in the election in Argentina in October, I think it was, where there were basically two finalists into who will become the president in Argentina. And this one guy was this millennial person who was having this kind of chainsaw, and he's going to cut up the government and whatnot. Strange person. Anyway, they made massive use of generative AI on both sides. So they used generative AI to put them on a positive note, hugging a teddy bear or whatnot, or they used Gen AI to put the other competitor in like a zombie picture or someone else, and both sides did it. So it was perhaps one of the first like really big like
generative AI elections.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And thinking about coming year there, where there's so many elections in EU, in US, and so many other things, that will be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. No, of course, if we sum up the year, there is one more theme. Maybe that could be summed up as AI safety. I mean, like we had the AI Act whole thing coming around. We had the executive order coming out from Biden. And we had I can't say it, Bletchley, the AI Safety Summit. So two quite big topics that really, if we say generative AI was on the agenda, I would say AI safety is now from 2023 probably on the agenda.
We forgot the memorandum that they were writing when Elon was saying, please stop AI.
That was this year.
Please stop AI until I release Grook.
But it was AI Doomer.
Yeah.
I had the AI Doomer as the heading, and the memorandum is right out on the name.
So typical, cry me a river so I can win time so I can release Grook.
Yeah, but
exactly. That was so like double standard. Like Elon Musk is signing the thing, and then he's building Grok AI and
releasing robots and shit like that.
But anyone who followed those articles when they came out, I mean, like there was equally amount of articles explaining how Silicon Valley works and how how the whole Silicon Valley needed to find the next golden nugget because they had some challenges. And any technology that is so scary needs to be super, super fancy. So I need to invest in that. So there's all this discussion and cynical debate also, how much is this doomer stuff is real and how much is just very, very smart marketing.
And also some people that are trying to do the right thing. I mean, so many people are, I think. And the question is, should you have closed models or closed weights or open weights or open source? And, Jan LeCun is very clear on this, and he believes, in open source, and that's a more safe approach potentially. Other people are thinking differently. But then we have, Mistral also doing it very publicly, openly. And I think so much happened from a regulation side, but also, we were speaking, we know there are a number of court cases happening now against the big generative AI companies like Midjourney and also DALL-E and OpenAI and toward, using Copilot and GitHub for Microsoft, and all of them are getting sued during this year. And we are starting to see some decisions coming in. Some court cases actually got some initial findings. And basically it says that the generative AI output is too dissimilar to the original work for it to be copyright violation, basically. So it's on the side of AI, if you call it that.
Yeah,
it's that will be, if it were the opposite, it would be really interesting. Now, basically, it's saying, okay, we are probably a bit more safe than we think, or that we thought before. We can wonder what that will mean. And we had a big strike, for Hollywood artists and the screenplay writers and the actors.
They had the Hollywood. Was it called memorandum? No, it was called in Hollywood. They came out with, like the union came out with sort of agreement or whatever you want to call it.
So many things happening around. What are the impact of AI being so powerful? I still think it's. I think we will adapt quickly to it. I'm a more of a positive kind of person. I think we will find a really good way to do this. I think in general, I guess I'm eager to go to 2024, but
maybe that's the segue because you.
It's not because I haven't had one. Because I think that I want to fill out the gaps where you basically didn't. For me, this year has been a tremendous amount of drama. I think this was very dramatic year from many aspects. It's been a shitty year for many people. First of all, we had a lot of layoffs and all of these things, which doesn't happen.
Right.
Yes, we didn't say that.
We started layoffs. We started actually with the layoffs. I was actually worried how this year is gonna end, and then money became very expensive. So companies didn't get the money and funds, and actually, so they went to shit and etc. But if I need to summarize the top 5 for me. And very shortly, these are the top 5. First, this has been a year of user experience.
Yeah,
hands down.
Good one.
Because what ChatGPT brought, they didn't talk about this is how you can use convolutional networks in sales. Sorry, you used to do that in Voltarion. They actually just provide you one simple user experience, and then they let you use your mind in any way possible and be creative as possible to utilize the technology. Right? And it was beautiful. And I believe that was the main actually win for them. It was not the AI behind it, because as we know, and we have been talking about this for a long time on this podcast, this is not a new technology. Their principle, their approach is maybe a little bit different, but this has been happening since 2018 and before, right? Yep. And Anders, you are a witness of that. So this has been a year of user experience. And I think that even now when you look at companies that are trying to implement all the AI applications, they are entering a hinder where basically even the users, they say like, yeah, but great that you're doing this, but I want the user experience to be like ChatGPT. I want to talk with it. I want to converse with it. Why should I have like a dashboard of, click Tableau, whatever it is, when I need to play with all of this data on a site, like apply this parameter, and then you need to remove this filter and this thing. I just want to speak with it. Like, give me the last quarter. How did it look like?
I think Lucas said a good thing there, which is that text is surprisingly universal. It's universal in the sense that most, or basically any person can use it. The user experience is very simple with text.
Yes.
And image and audio, but it's much easier than a weird, complicated form or user interface.
I think text is better because you can actually formulate yourself. You take time to write your setting.
And the second part of that is not only the user experience that is easy with text, it's also easier to build applications on it. So basically any company have data in the form of text. So it's surprisingly easy to build a product. And that's why we've seen so many product deployments in this year, because it is simple to build. It is simple to take a large language model and apply that to the data you have and integrate that into your product. So it's surprisingly universal also in terms of building products. So both the user experience and product development is easy with a universal format like text.
But I think you can go even bigger on this was the year of the user experience, because working in traditional enterprises trying to adopt data and AI, I think the trend for 2022, when we did this a year ago, we talked about, we had the trend around data mesh and data as a product. Okay, good. So now we're starting to productize things. But in this year, we came all the way to something that I think Anders and a lot of people have known for years. You need to build proper solutions and products. So so I can imagine when you start now in your new company, you are thinking the end-to-end stack from the beginning, from technology to what is the user experience of my users inside my organization. And this I saw a couple of times now where, we are talking with clients and all of a sudden, okay, we need to have some UX guys. We need to have this and this and that. And I have not really seen that big understanding in the traditional enterprise. It's been, are they engineers over here, the data scientists over there, and then we do something in Power BI. That is not a product thinking. Now it's an end-to-end product thinking that I am trying to push in all my work, and also where the clients are more mature to understand we need to go product. So I think use, and when I say product now, I mean the user experience as the end game, right?
Yes.
Because you understood that years ago, and you've been doing that in Spotify years ago, right? But we haven't in traditional enterprise, not so strongly.
And I'm trying to bite my tongue not to go 2024 here, but just speaking about the gap between the companies that are making proper use of AI and those that are not is something that I think we during this year have seen increase as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
we can speak more about that next.
Yeah, but you stop now so he can do his next.
Right. So the second one, go. This has been a year of change. We are not talking about change very often about this because AI equals change, right? It's a change problem. It's not actually a technology problem, what we are having right now. And I often speak with my team is that we always need to be able to not dwell on the ways how we work and do things rather than be adaptable and agile at any point of time. Because people that actually have built AI, let's say, some kind of a understanding of how AI will look like in 5-6 years from now, this was in 2022, this is completely off. It's gone. They needed to recalibrate every single thing about it. It was a year of change because now when you have the users using this technology as much as they can, they actually understood the power of it. And many people took it very negatively, like AI is going to replace us, instead of thinking like, hey, this is not going to replace us. We just need to change. We need to adopt this technology so we can be better, right? Simple. If I need to write like if it takes me 1 day to write an article, now I can write it maybe in half an hour. That means I can write 3 articles today, maybe even more. I can be more productive, or I can dedicate my time to doing something else. But we need to be able to change. And this year changed everything. The perception, the mindset. And I think that collectively as a society, as a people, we have entered a new level of consciousness and human maybe evolution.
I agree and I don't agree.
Super good. Please.
Because I think what you're talking about is profound and true. And, we even wrote an article, me and Mikael Klingvall, relearn how to hyperscale. And we are trying to formulate, what comes after economies of scale as an economic dogma.
You did that,
And we did this 2 years ago, right? So adaptability beats scale. How do you scale efficiently? And I even talked about that and used that as an example on Data Innovation Summit 2 years ago. And I gave example about economies of learning. And I did a really nerdy one in Dubai on this topic when it was fresh. Okay. They didn't get it, right? But what you are saying now is that the only thing that matters that now becomes super true is economies of learning and adaptability. So the way you go faster, or you're not making, the way you're improving your business is not about sharpening 5% on the old way. It's about constantly adapting and learning new ways. That is a completely different mindset and ball game. And you are now claiming that this change happened. In some ways, yes, we felt it. Everybody could feel maybe what Kurzweil is talking about with accelerating returns and all that. It's going fast now. But if I look at how the real industries, the traditional companies are working, they haven't really learned this yet. Their old steering models and business models are still fucked because they're based on the old school way of efficiencies.
I will come back on that on the 0.5.
Okay.
Right.
So we saw it now.
I think that many of the organizations that we have traditionally, they are afraid of change. Why? Because they don't understand it and they're afraid of it. And then when they invest for different reasons.
No, they're not geared. They're not organized for change.
Which leaves us to the number 3, which is actually, it has been a year of value. Why? Because I think that no matter which technology comes at us, we need to understand that it's just a technology, it's just a tool that is there to provide bigger value for what you're doing. So if you're a restaurant and your job is to serve a very nice food, using AI and robots, right, to increase the service, but you have a shitty food, nobody will come and eat it, right? And many people actually find themselves stranded in that they need to revolutionize their companies and start reimagining themselves instead of focusing on what their value is on the market, the perception, right? If you're a trucking company, you're a trucking company. You shouldn't be something else now, right? But they actually took that part, many of them. And I think that it was very negative to some extent. But now you can see companies are coming back because they are finding a way how to derive value. Because the only end of on the end is actually how do you actually get value from the technology that you're investing. I am investing in generative AI because it's, let's say, increasing my marketing capabilities. I can do different things, but we need to find value. So no matter which technology it is, the same aspect.
So then is it a change with this technology, if you call it that, or not? I mean, in some sense, you can say you have to do what you always had to do, find value.
Start from the value. Yes. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to make cheap, what is called best apparel for the cheapest price out there. Is that H&M? Yeah. So why don't you use the AI to make even more fashion, better fashion for cheaper money? Because that is your slogan. Why should you revolutionize now fashion on a way that you don't understand it?
But to be honest, maybe it comes further on, but I can flip this whole thing and say we're no better this year than any other year because we're talking about the technology, generative AI, and we're giving all the stage to it's a beautiful new technology. But in the end, back to basics, back to Anders' comment here, right? You know, if you don't know what you're going to use it for, how does it work?
As well, right?
But that is the point. Yeah, this is the year when we realize that no matter what technology comes along, you always need to start with the value.
But do you think that's happened? Because in one way, I think we had FOMO and generative AI everywhere and very little value.
People are starting to understand. They jump on a generative AI.
I mean, like, it's ridiculous, right? All the different report. We're going to put 30% on generative AI in our budget for marketing. You know, blah 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 blah. And it is tech driven first, right? Instead of really truly understanding what is the problem use case and then reverse engineer into the technology and usages and then therefore the techniques relevant. I don't think we're that much better.
We are not, but that is the point that we are actually, now you can understand that no matter what you do, you always need to start with the value.
Okay, so if generative AI, it's all hyped, it all goes out. And everything looks, like new. But in the end, for more and more people, back to value. Please, back to value.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then, number 4, disruption. The year of disruption. I think that basically whatever, Spotify's and Amazon's and Google's and etc. If you remember, beginning of the year, Google stocks went down at the beginning because they were afraid how ChatGPT is going to influence their search engine. You remember that? Right?
Yes.
And there have been a lot of discussion about this. So my point is actually that everything that we know today with this generative AI, and if we are talking about co-pilots, every single thing that was a disruptive force in the 2000s, everything, Ubers and etc., I think they're going to be disrupted again in the upcoming 5 to 10 years. Just because we are in a completely different, we're living in a completely different world right now with generative AI. Or the way actually how, we will find new innovative way how to do things and summarize them and make profit out of it. If we are entering this hyper-personalization type of era, where I don't need to go to a web page to search for shoes. I mentioned this a couple of times. Rather than I speak with my co-pilot to do that. Imagine what is the infrastructure behind it, the payment gateways, how my co-pilot is speaking with the co-pilot of the company, and the co-pilot of the company is speaking with the co-pilot of the supplier, and the co-pilot of the supplier is speaking with the supplier of the textile, and etc., etc. Then everything again will be disrupted.
But I'd like to challenge that a little bit, because
yes,
I think, for one, of course, you're right. Disruption will happen, and a lot of products and business models will be changed, and they should. But I think also generative AI has another pillar, so to speak, which is simply to augment the human. That means that the current product you're doing, the current process you're having, the current business model you have can stick, but you simply can do it more efficient. If you are, an ad copywriter, if you're a programmer, I mean, imagine all the developers we have today that can use AI to help them code in a much more efficient way and in a more high quality way. They will simply be augmented by generative AI. So one part, I think, of the value from generative AI at least will be simply to augment the human. But another part will be also these kind of new business opportunities that will arise. But I don't think we should dismiss the simple value that augmenting the current processes and the humans that work with them will have. I think that will be really big. So
I agree with Anders here that there are two parts to this, and we had this conversation before the pod, and I was trying to shape it in a formulation. You did it better now, and I was trying to say, like, actually, a lot of the AI investments we've seen in the past has been about improving process or reinventing process, and now we can have all this opportunity where we have AI tools where I don't try to reinvent the whole business model or process, but I give tools to the humans to figure out how he can be more productive in the old process. That's my word saying exactly the same as you said now. Yeah. So I think then there are two different. This is also then a trend for 2023 that not only now are we talking about AI to improving our business processes, but actually augmenting me as an individual.
And also products. So if you take what they, Microsoft and Google and did, they didn't change the product.
No, they augmented them.
They added a co-pilot on the side for the Office, for the Word, for Excel, for the web browser, for Windows. They didn't change the product. They augmented it.
It's augmenting of products and individuals that we saw right front and center in 2023. And the narrative change from reinventing processes to augmenting processes and individuals.
Yes. And then there will be, of course, new opportunities as well.
Of course, as well. But the low-hanging fruits.
But it's also, you shouldn't dismiss the value of simply augmenting the existing humans and products.
Yeah, and what happens now is that people... You can now, we are moving into the trends of 2024 because we are now talking about innovators and early adopters, and you can now be an early adopter as a company, but you can be an early adopter as an individual.
But also the product improvements we saw during the year that Google and Microsoft and Meta did, that was simply augmenting existing products.
Yeah.
Not really.
No new products.
Adobe as well, absolutely.
No new products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use augmentation.
Yeah. And the last one then it's people. We are usually forgetting that basically all of these things, user experience, change, value, disruption, regulations, all of that is impacting people. We started the year with a lot of layoffs and etc. And we are talking often about AI divide. And recently we talked that there is a new trend where basically more people are that are working with these technologies are now coming back to Europe than actually going away from Europe to US, which is super trendy, but which is super good. But in my perception of this, basically, I think that this has been a year of people. That first, if we are talking about if you want to be good with this technology, if you want to be advanced with this technology, you need to have the right people and skill set in the place. We are talking about AI divide. We are talking about AI in Sweden, Norway, Nordics, Germany, Europe, wherever we want to. And we talked about quite largely with Maria Stockhaus from the politician about it. She asked me actually, what do you think what we should do? So we need to get as many people in this country that are working with this technology. Because once you have that innovation, this mindset, then you can actually start creating things. The second thing was the very important about people is actually that they are the ones that determine which product is going to fly or not fly. And this is very important as well. So in the end, and because this technology is going to impact them eventually, how they use products, how they use services and everything else. And then we have in organizations, for example, we are usually forgetting the end users or the people in the sales and marketing that will be using the technology by itself. Right? So data scientists are right now sometimes creating a products that they have never spoken with the person if they like it or not, if they basically need that solution or not. Well, in the end, it's all about people, right? Because the value, it's about people.
That's the whole adoption
User
story
experience
again.
is about people.
User adoption and user experience.
Yeah, perhaps we should,
Everything.
in 2015, Google said they're going to be an AI-first company. So they are reorganizing and changing focus and prioritizing according to be an AI-first company. And a lot of other followed on. But perhaps, the coming thing, because I do agree what you said, Goran, we're going to be a people-first company.
Yes.
I think that actually is a good slogan.
But actually, I'm going to test, I'm changing my Derac slogan.
Yeah.
The AI adoption company.
Maybe.
I have a better one. We will talk about that.
That later.
I have to think. What will the acronym be for that?
No, their data AI readiness.
Okay,
the AI, the data AI readiness still holds.
Okay.
Yeah, it still holds.
It still, but
So finalize the year.
Yeah,
completely. Okay, this technology is too young, and it's developing too fast, and it's almost like if you take an atom out of water, it becomes very, 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 eager to get the atom back. So I think this technology is also something like that. It's unpredictable and it's developing very fast. But all of the things that you were talking about, technology, regulations, people, and etc., we need to understand this technology is very young, it's too early, and we need to give ourselves freedom to actually make mistakes. And right now, when we are starting regulating all of these things, something that is not actually fully shaped is almost like regulating a fetus that is in 3 months and is not being born. We don't know how it's going to look like. Yes, we're going to put guardrails and all this other stuff, but in the same time, we in Europe probably will be shooting ourselves in the foot.
If you do it in the wrong way.
Yes, because the technology is too young. We don't know what we're doing. We were talking about intellectual property. We are talking about people actually putting things in ChatGPT without understanding where this data goes. We had like a leak going on when they were showing how they were training data. All of this technology is very young, and we need to accept it that it's very young, and it's going to be stupid, and it's going to make mistakes, and we're going to do a mistake with it, but we cannot fear that. We need to move ahead and utilize it as much as we can so we can find a way how properly to use it.
Yeah, well put. Should we...
That's it.
Yeah, too early I would object to a bit, but that it's moving too fast, I agree with. But certainly, I think we shouldn't tell companies to wait to start to adopt to AI, at least.
No. It's opposite. They should be utilizing it
so
even now.
It's not too early, really.
No. We are
too early to regulate. Too early to regulate into...
I think we need to regulate even earlier as well. I think.
Okay, but
I like this.
But let's sort this out now, because I think we're talking about the same things, but it's
a good segue.
The devil is in the detail. So regulating like something is a mature product when it's not, it's very, very dangerous because it's very hard. But to have no guardrails or no regulation at all, even if it's immature.
But I don't think anyone is really promoting like no regulation.
No.
I think we really need to have that. And as any technology, if you have nuclear technology.
But regulate why? Why don't we standardize and then move to regulations? I mean, I went to Australia. It was beautiful. 60 companies got together to make a standard how to implement AI in an enterprise, so they can move faster. So standardize first, then regulate. Why do we need to regulate and then standardize?
Should we go into this topic?
Yes, we can if you want to. No problem.
I mean, let me use perhaps the old Elon Musk comparison to the seatbelt. I think that's a very pedagogical way to describe it. And before, when they built like automotive cars, the industry in the 1950s were very opposed to having seatbelts in it, because if they put a regulation in place where automotive manufacturers have to put a seatbelt, no one would ever buy a car. It's so awkward and horrible to have a seatbelt that it will be horrific to the whole industry. even though all the statistics show that, you get killed much more if you don't have a seatbelt. So that was really destructive to the whole society, that it took so long for regulation for seatbelts to come in place. Now, with AI, it's moving so fast that if you wait for a lot of horrible accidents to happen, it can be really, really nasty. And it's moving so much faster. The AI technology is moving so much faster than the car industry did in the 1950s. So I think we need to prepare to have regulation that will ensure that we are using AI for good and not for bad. Especially in these times where it's so easy to have people being augmented with AI, and that means all people. It means people that use it for good purposes and people that use it for bad purposes, for cybersecurity, for warfare, or whatever. That is something that we don't want to wait for to happen. We need to stop that before it happens, and I think we need to make sure that we have regulation for these kind of bad use cases that protect our society, and I think we need to do it quickly.
But I fully 100% agree to your statement. But how do we regulate? So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how. How do you regulate the fetus, if I use Goran's word? How do you regulate something that is experimentative still?
I think you can, but I think we can also say, how you should not regulate it, right? That's easier to say. And if you just regulate because of the technology, that's really bad. To just say that because it's a chatbot, we should allow it or not allow it. It's like one of the original versions of the AI Act was basically saying, if it's a chatbot, it's not that dangerous. It's just a customer service thing. Whatnot. That's low risk or minimum risk. But if you use a chatbot for grooming purposes online for children, or for using it as a therapist for people that are suicidal, it is not low risk. And that's a typical example of if you regulate technology and not the use case, it will turn bad.
Yes, but that is what we are talking about. No, but it's basically like this is air abortion. Abortus, what is called.
But hear me out now. Let me sort of draw out this something that becomes more and more strong in my head right now as we speak. There is something wrong here. When you're regulating something that is super mature, like when you're selling a mature product that is easy to understand. If I sell a phone, I don't need to consult around the phone or how the phone is used. I can just put it in the shelf and someone can buy it. If I'm selling a product that is highly complex, like an ERP system, I probably need to do a lot of consulting and guidance in order to implement something that has more risk and complexity. This is what I now think is happening with regulation. If you're regulating something that is very simple and clear and known to man, then you can do a very simple regulation. The law, don't hit anyone with a hammer. It's simple, and you don't need to have any consultative approach around that. But when something now is very, very gray or complex and difficult, the package, what is around the actual hammer or whatever you want to call it, the AI, becomes the more important. In sales, we talk about traditional product sales versus more consultative, complex sales, right? And I think this is what's happening now when we are regulating wrong, is when we are trying to use a very simplistic approach to put the regulation out, and there's no package, there's no consulting, there's no guidance. I think this is the major problem with regulating wrong.
I don't think you need to understand how to. If you take something like
now, how to act, how to do it,
take autonomous weapons or something.
Yeah.
We know that autonomous weapons that are stupid are super, super dangerous. I heard Jan LeCun speak about this once, which really made me think a lot. But should I go there? I won't go there. Anyway, you can actually say that if you have people or humans out of the loop for some use cases, that means basically the only thing that needs to be there if humans are not there is AI. For some use cases that are completely autonomous, I think we need to have regulation in place that speaks about autonomous systems.
Yep.
That is not in control of humans. That is really dangerous. And I think for some of these use cases, we need to have it AI specific. So I do think there are examples that even though we don't understand how the AI works, even if it's immature, even if we don't know if it's a large language model or if it's an AlphaZero reinforcement learning, reasoning, super advanced thing that is working underneath, we know that if we have a system that is going to be able to target 1,000 people at once using some swarm autonomous drone technique, it should probably be regulated, just as chemical weapons need to be.
And my point is, of course, you're right here. I think we need to spend a lot more investment, money, and effort on the how around this regulation. So the regulation is there, as it should be, as you highlight. The what is then defined in the regulation. But I think because we are all experimenting, we need very, very clear approaches. How should I go about experimenting this? So it's not the what is not enough when it's so immature. It needs to be a lot more how in this regulation, which is maybe not a regulation anymore, but I would call it a package. I would pull the support system.
I think
but this is a good segue to 2024.
Yeah, let's stop there. Yeah, stop there.
No, we can continue, but we can because one of the biggest things that will happen for Europe is probably going to come in January.
Yeah, so what is the prediction of 2024? Let's start with the AIA Act.
Yes, because
I'd like to have a big of a discussion here, by the way.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So let's start with this. So let's talk about regulation first. So I think that regulation is really good. The only problem that I don't agree that we are regulating basically the hammer and not the usage of the hammer, right? And we are all in agreement that is actually.
I think we're all in agreement in that.
Right. So and it's going to be very interesting. So first of all, this is not like a law already, rather than it's something that is put in motion. So in January, if the European Parliament will vote on it, keep in mind that there are very big forces that might actually boycott this because some countries that are super involved in all this and invested in this, like Germany and France and Spain and Italy, where you also have one of the major supercomputers in Europe, and they're developing LLM models. Of course, maybe
Luby,
this is
right?
Yeah. We'll see how it's going to turn out. But once it's voted, I think that next year is going to be a year of fear for me personally, because if they vote AI Act, it's going to happen what happened in 2018 when the GDPR came.
I guess we need to start their AI regulation consulting.
I already bought some domains
that
about
will be
AI.
Very lucrative business.
Yeah, exactly.
Goran and I already talked about it.
Yeah. I already bought some domains as well. So, so my prediction is basically if this comes in motion, then companies will have 2 years to be compliant.
Yeah.
And
2 years for the companies, 2 years for the countries to have the support system.
Keep in mind that what happened in 2018, some of the companies just basically not to have this headache with GDPR, they completely killed their entire database. Just pulverize it with one button, delete. Okay, start building it from scratch. What do you think is going to happen for organizations that have like hundreds of models that they don't have any life cycle management on? They don't know who created them. They don't know which basically model from GitHub or whatever it has been used. What are they going to do about it? Delete.
How will you deal with this?
Yes.
This is what I'm saying.
So you were talking about data.
This fucking simple point. Where is the support mechanisms, the support package? Where are the guidelines? Where are the examples? Where are the case studies? Where is the regulatory library?
Yes, let me tell you how this is going to look like. So next year, and if you look in LinkedIn, this is very obvious, right? And many of you might hate me at this point of time, but I know that you're going to make a lot of money, so this money is going to comfort you next year. Next year, the consultants are going to just basically make so much money out of this FOMO.
And they're going to play the fear
People
game.
that do basic consultancy that have never had anything to do with AI.
We're going to have so many new actors.
Exactly. And they will read to companies, this is exactly what you need to do. Your model should be doing this. Ask him what the model actually is and what the model is. He will not know how to put it in place. No. And yes, there are some that will know. And we had some very knowledgeable people here, but many people are not. And if you look who is actually happy about the AI Act, look at every single consultancy. Yeah. They are pushing this so hard because they know this is how we are going to be relevant in the AI sphere.
There's so many management consultants who are been dropping behind one by one in the real engineering game, and I've seen it clearly. And now they pop back up on the surface again, and they are lightweights when it comes to these
exactly,
topics.
because these consultancies, they thrive on this. They go, and it's a very easy sell. You play a golf with someone and say, like, hey, how is your model going? What model? Well, it's 25% of your global revenue that will go out, right? What models? Like, you have a data science team? Yes, I have. All right, EPA good, 25%. Oh, come on Monday, you need to talk. Let's talk. So it's going to be so much. Then I believe we will find quite a lot of new companies, business models that will be called AI audit companies. I want 10%.
You're selling out your whole your business.
No, I'm making demand because I bought all the domains. So call me, ping me. Yeah.
Okay, so you're being so lazy, Goran. So you're not wanting to build the companies anymore. You just bought the domains.
I just want to sell the domains. AI audit, AI redovisning, all of these other things. I bought them all. So stupid, but my point on this, joke on a side, this will bring actually companies quite a lot in a fear to understand, and if for a good, to understand what do they have under the hood. And this is where data governance and AI governance comes in place. Because if you really want to fine-tune how your model works, you need to have data governance. You need to work with data. If you want to understand what is the life cycle of your what is called ML models, AI models, you will need to have AI governance. And then finally, you will need to have FinOps, because all of this costs like a lot, right, to produce all of these LLMs and etc. So even now we are getting quite a lot of requests for FinOps topics.
What is FinOps?
FinOps is basically cloud cost optimization. So data management, cost optimization. How do you actually optimize your processes of cloud usage so you don't overburn your financial...
So how do you optimize the setup of your platforms from a costing,
Yes.
compute versus storage cost, etc., etc., etc.?
Yeah. Who has access to it? When do you compute? Is it necessary? And all these things. And
FinOps.
FinOps. And this is actually, we were discussing the other day with a client who is actually responsible for this. And some companies have it, and some companies is very distributed. There is this FinOps manifesto right now that is very hot. But if you look at the persona behind the FinOps, is like 10 different personas, which is basically everybody except the cleaner in the company, right? So everybody who has...
And then you have a couple of companies where basically they use their company credit card to get another AWS license or GCP license.
So you will have like these ghost things as well. But in general, you have the CFO, or you have the person that is responsible for cloud computing and cloud infrastructure, are usually people that are working on this. So this is actually where I think that the most things will go next year, but also it will push people once they start doing that. And as a consequence of what happened this year is to look a little bit more on the value, because once now you have regulation and you have cost optimization, you as a manager working with AI, you will have hard times getting money, which means that you will need to start working on value. They will tell you it's enough with experimentation. Tell me how much we are increasing value for it. Because if not, I'm killing your cloud computing power. You will not be able to do this, and I will not allow you to get another...
So summarize this in, what is the shorthand prediction or trend
My
here?
prediction is that it's going to be a year of FOMO that will force basically organizations to reevaluate how they approach AI, if they should approach AI, how they govern models in production, how many models they need to have in a production, what is the value of that, and what is the cost.
And this is around this, and then bolting onto that is that, and we're going to have consultants making a shitload of money on this.
Yes.
So is it really a fear of missing out then, or is it the fear of getting sued?
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's not FOMO, it's actually
fear of being sued. Fear of fogs.
Right.
Fogs.
All right.
FOBs.
This goes on the LinkedIn tomorrow.
FOBs, yes.
Yeah.
Fear of being sued. Yes, good. I think that's
FOBs. Fear of being sued.
Yeah.
That's the FOMO or FOBs. You heard it here first.
FOGS.
No,
FOGS.
Being sued. Fear of being sued. FOBs.
FOBs. All right.
I like it
I'm
better.
making a t-shirt tomorrow.
We are the FOMOs of the FOBs.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm done with the
okay,
predictions.
well, do you want to lead into the predictions, or should I do one, or you do one, or?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think still, one of my, if you just think for 2024, a company is thinking, okay, we understand AI is a big thing, but how do I really make the best use of AI? I think, one of the sayings I've been having for a long time still holds very true, even in the world of generative AI. And that is, that AI is good at different things than humans. AI is really good at going through large amount of data, but does so in a rather superficial way. It can't really reason in an efficient way, especially not ChatGPT and these kind of large language models. But it can go through a huge amount of data in a very, very efficient way, much more efficient than any human, going through like thousands of pages of text or hours of videos and whatnot, or even ChatGPT that basically have the knowledge of all the web. That's a huge amount of data that it actually can process and manage in better way than any single human ever could. So it's really good at working with large amount of data. And humans are not. So this is awesome. We can see here that, if you want to use AI in the best possible way, let's make use of AI for what's good for, and humans for what they are good at. And any company in 2024 that is doing that will have a good edge. So let's make sure that we use AI for the things it's good for. Humans, they are,
Let's chopping up the prediction here. So you have a prediction here that basically says what happens to companies in 2024 that is using AI or not using AI.
Some companies will learn this, or if I'm correct, and they will have a huge benefit of these new possibilities, and they will increase in value. So I think the prediction is basically, I guess, this. The gap between companies that can make positive use of AI will increase compared to companies that will not learn the lesson and do not make use of AI in a good way. So that gap will increase. Previously, we were speaking about the AI divide in different ways and then focusing on the superscalers, the big tech giants. But I think, we will see other companies now that actually do understand how to make use of AI, and they will also move towards closer to these kind of superscalers, but at normal scale. But you will also see companies that are still in the conservative, traditional type of technology that are unable to make use of AI to augment existing processes and humans. And that gap, the AI gap in this, or AI divide, I think in 2024 will increase rather.
Yeah. So let me try to put my words on it, and we spoke about it a little bit preparing for the pod. So we've always had the real AI innovators, and we talked about the AI divide for years. And actually, one part of why we started this pod to make this more, to spotlight this, so we have more urgency in Europe, especially. So we have the tech giants, right? And we have been comparing with them. This is the AI divide of the rest of the world. And what you are saying now, Anders, that there is a nuanced view on this emerging in 2024, that we now have the AI innovators, the tech giants, and then we have what we could consider maybe the early AI adopters. So we have the companies who are, or individuals, who are experimenting and basically have increased their own productivity, that basically now are on the ball. And I made this example where economies of learning, economies of adaptability, when I took the case study of KB, Data Innovation Summit, Kungliga biblioteket, how they actually been brilliant very early because they adapted the BERT models and stuff like that. But so here we have one example here that we can now see in 2024, some people, some organizations adapting a little bit and starting to be part of the new curve, so to speak. And then the hypothesis for the organizations that are doing nothing, they actually, that divide is now increasing, and it's starting to go with some speed now. So there's a difference here that the people who are the laggards or the non-actors at all, that's what worrying us.
And I think also what you said, comparing companies to humans, I think the same applies both for, single individuals, humans, as for companies. So humans that are able to use AI for their own tasks will get surprisingly better value compared to humans that do not. And the same for companies. Companies that do find a way to make use of AI properly will have a significant advantage to companies that do not. So I think this is a learning for both the humans and for companies.
Yeah, and there's been this quote circulating, and I've used it sometimes. AI will not replace you.
Right, exactly.
Another human competent with AI will replace you.
So don't think, AI will replace humans. It's rather that humans that use AI will replace humans that do not use AI. And the same for companies.
That's it. Very simple. Right. Yeah. But this is a fairly major prediction because it sort of highlights how the whole market is shifting and who do we need to be, right?
Yeah.
Let me go another way now. I think another big debate that potentially can lead into prediction that I think is crystallizing more and more during 2023 is the way of AI open source versus closed, so to speak. And we have people like Jan LeCun being at different shows and talking quite open, forefront, and saying like, it has to be open source as a way to evolve the world. And other proponents of open source have a look at where would we be without PyTorch or TensorFlow or anything of what we have reached today has been based on open source. Don't forget that. And all of a sudden now we have some movements that are sort of the opposite.
And it's really, really weird because, the concentration of power that we're now seeing with the superscalers running away and even, single people like Elon Musk that has this insane amount of power right now, and the concentration to a few individuals or to a few companies, we need to break that.
We need to break that, and it pisses me off that we don't talk about this. And it sometimes it's almost like Jan LeCun stands there alone.
Yeah,
I mean, I would argue very, very strongly that proprietary is bad in this sense because it's such a concentration of power, especially now.
Yeah.
So how do we make that into a prediction for 2024? Can we even make it into a lobbying? What do we urge people to do and think about for 2024?
We could have regulation that made that incentive even stronger.
Regulation that incentivizes open source.
We're not seeing that, I must say.
You get a little bit of exempt in the AI Act.
Yeah, but it's like, instead of killing open source, which it would otherwise, it is at least leave it hanging there. We should instead incentivize that, right? And that we're not seeing.
No.
So,
but is there a prediction in this? Where will this? I mean, it's a little bit like VHA's Betamax, which will increase in momentum in 2024.
I don't know. In some sense, I think the proprietary approach is increasing still because OpenAI is anything but open, of course. Google is not releasing anything also, and Microsoft, of course, not. And Meta is, though. But it's the exception to the rule, more or less. So.
But can I be blunt? If I'm a European who believes in open source, I would put my money and investment in idealistic ways to try to make the maximum out of Mistral. Is that a bad consultant advice? Or is that a good one?
I have to think about this, but I think it's a good question, How can we really incentivize companies like Meta and Mistral, because both of them are pushing for this, but it really goes against commercialization.
No, but it's voting with your wallet. It's like I go to the supermarket and I decide I need to buy ecological milk. Yeah. I mean, it's bullshit, but it's like, what can I do in order to? How can I vote with my wallet? I eat less. I eat more sustainable food. Whatever I do. Can I vote with my wallet what kind of world I want, and how do I do that?
Because at the same time, you can reason about the AI Act and the requirement for transparency that they are enforcing, saying, you need to show what data you have used, how the model works. Good luck explaining that.
Yeah.
And in some sense, that is actually giving some incentives to
open source, right?
But it needs to be doing that in a way without killing the business model of all the companies and without having to give away the IP. So for me, I certainly don't have a good answer for this, but I think it's scary, the trend we're seeing right now.
So you think the trend is scary because it seems like the proprietary world or the superpowers are getting more and more secretive by the minute.
And they're saying they're doing it for safety reasons, which really work from a politically correct point of view. But in reality, they're doing it from a commercialization point of view. So they're using safety as an excuse to keep things closed.
All right. So, but that was the predictions and discussions about open versus proprietary. Do we have I have a couple of more topics on my mind. Do you have one in between?
Sure. I mean, okay. If we go for the 3 components of an AGI system.
Yes, I was gonna go there.
Oh, okay.
Go. You go, and I bolt onto that.
So one way to, I mean, Janne can also have his version of it. I have a bit more simplified one saying perception, planning, reasoning, and control. So if you take a full self-driving car, just to explain it, perception is basically taking the input of all the cameras or whatever sensor you have and putting it into vector space or some kind of world model that you have. That is basically what chatbots are doing today. So they are taking
the perception game we're getting better and better at.
Yeah, so really good at perception these days. So that is not a problem today. We can do that extremely well. So we can have a world model now by understanding this, just as a self-driving car can understand the world around it in a vector space. But it's not sufficient with that. And even the DeepMind paper about AGI that came out, said this also very clearly. We are missing a lot. We're only on level 1 out of 5 in terms of AGI.
Yeah, we didn't mention the paper. We can mention that because that's one of the best definitions we've seen so far.
Yeah. So they try to have some paper speaking about how to measure the level of artificial general intelligence. In any case, we are certainly lacking reasoning in the big models. So I think that is something that I hope we will see in 2024. That is potentially what the big Q-star thing that OpenAI had is about. But some people say not. We don't know. We're just guessing. But if we were to have the reasoning power of AlphaGo, AlphaZero, that can play chess but have no world model at all, but then they have a super high reasoning capability that can beat anyone in chess and Go and whatever. So no way the human can beat the reasoning power for that very narrow task. Well, let's take that reasoning power and put that on top of the world models that the chatbots and LLMs have, and you get something amazing. But it's still not sufficient. Now you have 2 parts, potentially. We haven't seen this yet happening, but if someone are able to bring in the reasoning power together with the perception of foundational models, that would be an amazing thing. And I think we will see movements in this direction in 2024. But it still doesn't solve the control problem of having agency, of taking actions, of controlling a robot or whatnot. One person, of course, is doing it is Tesla and the Optimus robot.
Optimus generation.
They came out with a Gen 2 now recently, amazingly in being able to walk and plan and do reasoning and have perception. But if we get, the first one that have all 3 in a very general sense, both perception about anything, both high-level reasoning, and the control ability to be that agency, Jesus Christ, then we get really close to AGI.
Okay, and if I now summarize this to a prediction for 2024, perception, we have come, if you look at these 3 levels, we are way above on the perception part. Which one do we think we're going to have some announcements on or see something out in the wild?
Not robotics or motorics.
Not control.
Yeah.
So more something around reasoning.
Yes.
So, okay. So have a stab at betting or imagining what type of feasible breakthrough could we see? But like they talked about Q-star, right? And it's been all this Q-star. I mean, like the Q-star is a little bit going in this direction with saying, oh my God, why? Maybe the whole saga in OpenAI was that they had so much more going on with GPT-4.5 or whatever they want to call it. So someone was arguing, oh, maybe they have come way further.
Yeah. And they claim it could solve math problems. But
if you're going to solve math problems, is this the reasoning part? Yes. So what are the sort of reasoning techniques that is sort of because we've been working on this for over a year, more than a year. In the different DeepMind is working on this. We know this. Meta is working.
Yes.
Meta is working on this a lot.
Been,
the JEPA paper highlights what they are working on.
Complaining about the autoregressive nature of foundation models.
And he says it's never going to be enough, period. He said that years ago.
It's not the scalable approach. And I, of course, agree with him.
So where's the research right now on the reasoning part? What could we maybe, if we're lucky, see next year?
Yeah, I think the JEPA approach, of course, is an amazing one. And just having this kind of autoregressive approach, it's super simplistic. I mean, that's one of the very surprising learnings in the last couple of years, that you can get so much value and appearance of intelligence from just predicting the next word. But of course, it's a very inefficient way from a reasoning point of view. And the one that can go away from autoregressive and have foundational models that can reason in a more high level, that will be the killer app. That will be amazing. And that will be able to move into much smaller models.
But how could what could be the MVP minimum next step in this?
I guess Mistral is
Mistral, right? Yeah, so that okay. So now we're good. So let's say MOEs is the first step.
Mixture of experts. Yeah.
Mixture of experts type system. So what we are seeing with Mistral now is maybe the micro level that we're not moving in one mega.
Yeah.
Could you explain?
Yeah, it's still not reasoning in a good sense, but at least we have, split up the super simplistic transformer architecture, which is very simple. It's just, high scale. Now suddenly you have at least split up in different experts. So in Mixtral, that is a mixture of experts, they have 7 different...
8 types.
Yeah, 8, sorry.
8 types.
There's 7B, but 8 of them. Yeah. Thank you, Henrik.
First time.
But okay, so that makes it super much more efficient, much better than even the 70 billion parameter of Llama 2, but much smaller and significantly faster. So that's moving into like a smarter architecture. You're seeing now not simply scaling the architecture, but actually having a smarter architecture that is speeding up on the improvement. And that type of development, I think, is a small but a first step towards something that's changed the architecture to be much more efficient.
Yeah, and I was reading some stats, how they were trying to explain the efficiency of doing that. So the difference by lighting up every single neuron in every single time you're doing a pass versus you're doing some sort of a reasoning which expert model is more relevant, and then you lighting up a part of this, and it's amazingly less neurons being fired. I think
it's actually, if you were to make a super succinct kind of prediction of 2024, I think it will be the year of efficient foundational models.
The year of efficient foundational models.
Yes.
You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think you're right, because we were talking about this. We're gonna not have so many massive scale. Of course, it's gonna be massive scale with multimodal. You argued, but because of the massive scale in other dimensions, we need to work smarter. We need, and the smartness is actually how we're going to back ourselves into the reasoning capability. I mean, we're going to end up in that because of other...
I mean, the reasoning of just predicting the next word is so stupid. So the one that actually are coming up with smarter ways to have an objective function will be able to create so much more efficient models.
So you get more efficient models, and by having that objective as your first objective, you're actually getting closer to the reasoning capability. Yes. Yeah. So the year of the efficient foundation model. And who's best equipped to win that race? Do we know?
Mistral is surprisingly good, but of course Meta has been speaking about this for a long time. So
yeah, but if you talk about the value proposition and being first on the market with the value proposition,
but I think also DeepMind, they have been working on this kind of reasoning techniques for so many years,
and we don't even know exactly what it is. Or I don't.
No. I thought Gemini would be it, but it wasn't. Gemini was just in the same
multimodal,
the GPT approach.
But multimodal.
Yeah, multimodal, but still GPT. And the one that can go beyond that, that will be the winner. And I think Google has the ideas for that. So I think Google or Meta will be one of the potential winners.
All right. Any other predictions? I can leave with another one. Do we have any predictions for the VC market, AI VC investment market? And we were joking about, when should we have invested in NVIDIA? When should we have invested in AMD? When should we have invested in Microsoft? So, is the money drying up? Is it harder to getting VC? We have just like Alina Antila, etc. We talked about this. So anything we can say about the money market around AI?
I think that one is extremely hard to mention. I think that if you look at the stock market right now, and so to all readers, we are extremely novice in this, and we are just speculating. So
just having fun.
Just having fun. From my aspect, I think that everything is going AI. So I think that in any case, AI chips and graphic cards are always a safe bet, because you need to have more of those in the future if we don't find a different ways how to actually utilize GPU. And
so you went the investing part. I was more thinking also about
startups.
So having a startup in 2024.
So now the past couple of weeks I have gotten approached because of the LinkedIn angel investment title. I got there is a lot of companies that are doing a startup on the accuracy and fine-tuning. But if you listen to Rebecca and Evelina and Oliver, for example, they are betting on the application part of AI. And I think that is much more a safer bet, because if you look at the companies that are right now working with accuracy of LLM models and etc., yes, there is like some kind of it makes sense. But is it in a long run, is it safe bet?
Because we don't know where the technology is going.
No. So I think it's basically another band-aid for bandage, basically, for a wound that will be healing in 1 year. So maybe not, we will not maybe exist in 1 year.
So if we summarize the advice from the VC community that we've been on the pod.
No, this is my personal, I would not even put them
there. No, don't put the words, but you could sort of sense for the fundamentals. Do you solve a big, hairy problem for a user? Yes. If you do that, it's typically quite good.
I would more bet in companies that are trying to think how everything will work when in 5 years you will have co-pilots and different way of how do you interact with things. And I think disruption is upon us, and companies will think differently. And some of these companies, we will not even see them.
No. Since I also is in the investment business for some.
Yeah, you have some good friends that you're meeting with as well.
Anyway, I think applications part is one, and of course just making use of the GPTs and the new type of use cases that you can build on top of the foundation models. They will have a lot of potential use cases. They have to be really lean, I think, to make it work, but still we will, I think, of course, see a lot of those in 2024.
Yeah.
But I think also, I think you mentioned as well, Goran, the AI chips and the hardware part, because we can see the hardware space is now finally getting some more competition. It's not only NVIDIA, at least.
AMD is there.
Yeah, AMD is there, but every major tech companies now.
Sam Altman had like an AI chip company.
China is going hard on this. America is going.
Microsoft announced a new chip. Google America is going for a long time. Tesla have their own chip. Everyone is building their own chips.
Yeah, because they don't want to be dependent on somebody else. The problem is that basically the resources for that is going to be
Taiwan.
Yes, exactly. So this is where everything else comes to play. So if next year or the year after, things get a little bit more serious in the
so what's the prediction for the chip market? Can we frame it?
The chip market, if something happens with Thailand, you just basically sell all of your stocks and go to a fucking island somewhere and shut up until everything is all right.
Yeah, that's a weird market. But at least I think we will start to see in 2024 a significant increase in competition compared to the extreme monopoly that we have seen in previous years.
And has anyone followed Jensen or anyone else? What are they working on as the next level?
It's awesome stuff.
What could you?
We will have them on Data Innovation Summit actually. So We will have one of their machine
But
learning.
there's stuff happening. The NVIDIA is doing
NVIDIA
stuff.
is doing amazing things, and of course they have so much money, that they simply cannot manufacture enough stuff. So they're charging insane amounts of money for their hardware. Of course, they're making so much money. Of course, they're spending it on research. Of course, they're spending it on building the next generation of these things.
But I heard Jensen, I think he was on Eric Sorkin, the New York Times guy, who kind of do the panel discussions or interviews. And he asked the CEO of NVIDIA, so when you're planning now your architecture, on your level, how far ahead are you right now? And this is now, everything is happening and it's moving so fast. And they need to plan with, he said, 10 years. Architecture-wise, understanding to what he should develop in order to get the tooling, in order to get the manufacturing capability. He needs to envision 10 years from now. Can you imagine envisioning 10 years from now? This is what their bets are on right now.
But I think that is what every solid CEO of a company should actually do.
For a superscaler,
of course.
Yeah. No, even for IKEA, Scania, Tetra Pak, all of these companies.
They shouldn't build their own ship, though.
No, thinking 10 years ahead.
No, but they should be thinking 10 years
okay.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
10 years is
a very long
super
time.
hard time right now.
Yeah, but if you look
When I heard him say that, how can you imagine 10 years? Neuromorphic computing, right?
Yes, that's my vision. Okay, so hardware, it will be an interesting year, at least, in 2024 for hardware, for sure, in AI.
But you don't want to be specific on any...
I think simply,
what can we see?
neuromorphic is still a couple of years ahead, but I think, the ones moving in that direction and getting some first economically viable solution for that I think is the future. I can go much more into depth.
Because neuromorphic is when you do everything in one place.
Yeah, so when you combine computation with memory into one place, instead of having them separate, and you can have them in the same place, just as a human brain can, it brings so much benefits.
I've been invest in consultancy.
But I've been triangulating what you've been talking about that, and we are talking about actually a Neumann architect that has been around for how many years?
Hundreds.
Hundreds, right?
I think so.
But is it because it's unbeatable, or is it because it couldn't be made at that point in time, and now we can make it? So it probably
still really can't make it. Intel has been trying for some time to make it work, but it's hard to find the economy to make it work. But the benefits for the one that do make it work, and of course, Sam Altman is investing in this company called Rain.ai.
Rain.ai is right. So here we're talking about Sam Altman's bet in the chip industry, right? And what is the angle of Rain?
Yeah, it's neuromorphic.
Neuromorphic, right?
Yes. But I don't think they will release anything in 2024. We'll see.
No.
But in general, do you expect more drama like this year, exponential growth?
Yeah.
Who knows? But maybe. Probably. But, just speaking about investments, I think application, of course, one thing, we'll see a lot of new stuff there. But I think also simply augmenting existing products and people, we shouldn't forget about that. Yeah. Then we have the hardware. But I think also one other aspect is actually the developer experience. And, the AI
that is true, actually.
Improvements will improve and change the way developers work in really strong ways. I mean, I use generative AI all the time when I program these days. And everyone will, in 2024, or the ones that don't, will be far, far behind.
So the co-piloting era is here to stay.
Yes. And the one that actually can get a working developer experience well in 2024 will be the best investment I think you can make.
So who are now leading the race on co-piloting for developers, would you argue?
OpenAI and Google.
What about Git? The whole Git have been working with the devil. Yeah, of course.
It's the same thing.
It's Microsoft.
It's Microsoft.
Yeah, once again, it's the superscalers. And Meta, of course, also have some stuff there. And Mistral actually have also some code stuff. But you can see this kind of... I hope you all see the superscalers and the AI divide. They will provide so many values to different type of users.
But this is a good prediction, right? Yeah. Follow closely what is happening in the coder co-piloting space in 2024, who is sort of charging ahead, because we're talking about software development 2.0, 3.0.
3.0.
3.0. I mean, like, we are talking about the paradigm shift for a very, very, for the whole thing, how we do.
Can partly that first mention the term software 2.0, speaking about, you have machine learning suddenly that can help you to avoid, to not have to write all the rules, and instead you simply feed data and use machine learning. But 3.0 is basically you use AI to write the code as well. So for the stuff that you can't train a model on, you can use AI to do the coding for you as well. So it's one step further.
This is the crazy stuff, because we were sitting here and doing predictions and discussing as a cool thing 2.0, and now all of a sudden we've flipped it. But
this is, by the way, another thing where we should have regulation for AI. The one that actually first delivers or builds, which someone has tried, builds a system that can actually develop itself and program itself in an autonomous way. This is dangerous stuff.
This is where it can get out of hand.
This should be regulated.
But is that a fair summary? It's an interesting prediction or advice. Have a close look at how the co-piloting for coders is evolving and what is happening here. Follow this very, very closely, because this is a major big deal. It really revolutionizes the whole software industry.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Should we stop there with these predictions, or do we have anyone else, or how do we wrap this up, Goran? What do we have left?
Well, all standard way. Let's talk about
philosophy.
Philosophy. Now I think we will wrap up with after.
These are some nice predictions, I think. Those are cool predictions.
There's a few more that we can add, but I think it's going to be an exciting year in any case. I don't expect to be as big as that was this year.
It's crazy if it is.
I believe so, because I think this was a fundamental change in terms of what is called dissemination of AI across society. But that, of course, will continue. But I don't think that we will have
but you get fatigue.
I think it's going to develop on already what happened this year. But of course, we will see how it's going to go. But it's going to be exciting. In any case, what we can do and what we can predict that is going to be a super exciting season 8 and season 9 of this podcast.
So then
we are coming back in January approximately. So we are continuing with our new segment, which has been very successful and with a lot of great feedback regarding that. And we will try actually to get even more.
Get into the top 10 perhaps of the world's best AI podcasts.
Well, my KPI is actually not that. My KPI will be actually more bringing even more exciting people to this podcast that we can actually speak and have after work with. That will be my KPI. And what happened with
having more fun.
Yes, exactly. And what happens out of that is a different thing. Yes. In any case, what we promise that we will do is that we will stand here every Thursday. And we will basically demystify AI.
Yeah, and have fun
have fun while we're doing it.
Yes. Sounds great to me.
So happy Christmas, happy holidays.
Happy Christmas, happy holidays.
Yes.
And
Awesome.
see you on season 8.
See you in season 8.
Yes.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.